Alright, today I'm going to be giving you a quick rundown, hopefully it'll be quick, of how to play Ascension Tactics. I am using the tabletop simulator mod that they've let us be testing with the community for a few weeks now. The Kickstarter is going to go live July 7th, coming up real soon after the time I put this video up. And I look forward to all of you being able to check out the campaign. They're going to have a whole bunch of cool stuff on there, lots of stretch goals, interesting things going on, add-on purchases, just a whole bunch of really cool things in this Kickstarter. I expect this to be incredibly successful, but it can only be successful with all of you. So I'm going to try to teach you how to play this game. First of all, on Tabletop Simulator here, I'm going to turn myself to a particular color and I'm going to switch teams back and forth. I'm just going to hit preset champs and show you something. So it's just going to immediately deal out champions to my people and then start the basic scenario. This is the 3 shrines basic scenario in the rulebook. You have a portal on each side for each player. This is where they can deploy their champions from. The champions will then move about this map. Occasionally they'll have to deal with forest hex. A forest hex takes 2 movement to enter. It's free to move out of, but if you go from a forest to a forest, you're still entering a forest hex, so it'll take 2 movement. Other things that can happen on this map are you could stop on one of these treasure tokens. A treasure token has a random effect on it that you can bank until one time during the game when you're like, it's time to deploy my treasure. Things they might do are like, ooh, that's a big one. +7 attack power could help turn the tide in a battle very quickly. Something could be just a little bit more attack power, but more movement. Get to a spot your opponent didn't expect you to get. Strike back. They attack you, you deploy a strike back, and now both champions take damage potentially, and probably killing both of them. You could also have defense bonuses. There we go. There was a defense bonus with this random setup. So that someone attacks you, they're going to take off an important champion of yours, and you're like, nope, I have defense. We're going to cancel that entirely. Where these treasure deploy are based on the scenario book, so it'll tell you how to set up all the map tiles and what it'll look like. But most of these scenarios are going to use these shrines. These red zones, you can have champions standing directly on them or in any of the 6 hexes adjacent to it. If you do have the majority around a shrine at the end of your turn, you're going to gain an honor, one of the victory point conditions for Ascension. Most scenarios will have a certain predetermined when someone hits 20 honor, the game is over. When someone hits 15 honor, the game's over. It'll depend on the scenario and how things are set up. Some might even have some more interesting win conditions, like summon the Giga Cultist to win. I said nothing. You heard nothing. I'm just trying to push that at the designers. Anyway, over here you have one zone that can be controlled, another zone in the middle, and another zone on the side. This honestly feels a lot like a MOBA with laning. You're sending champions into one of the 3 lanes to battle and control it. Occasionally you have people hop over the forest or jungle to come into a different lane and turn the tide of the battle there when it's important. Not particularly important to make that comparison. Many of these things won't have that comparison, but that's what the initial scenario has some comparisons to. So let's look at what a team might be. A team of champions you might have could be something like Spike Vixen. It has 3 damage to an enemy champion, it has 5 health before it's defeated, and in the middle you'll see a power cost. It costs 2 power during my turn to command this champion. And this particular one has double attack. Double attack is a keyword that allows it to attack twice during a turn. These do not have to be against the same target or even back to back. Normally when you command a champion, you pay your 2 power, deploy it if it's off the board to your portal, and then you're going to use a single attack action and a movement in any order. A movement allows you to move up to 3 hexes in any direction. I can turn, do things however you want to do it for your movement. I do not have to move 3. As a short little tactical note, it is not always to your advantage to move as far as you possibly can every turn. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes you want to be just slightly out of range. This one could, if it started here and there was an enemy champion, it could attack it. Let's say I had an attack buff and it was able to kill him. It could then use its movement action and maybe attack someone else because it has double attack. It gets 2 attacks during its turn. Doesn't really matter when it uses them. It can attack the same guy twice, essentially dealing twice its damage. Very cool way to use it. Then we have the Runic Lycanthrope. 3 attack power, 6 defense, only 2 to command. 2 is a pretty standard low-cost champion. This one has Allegiance. If I can play a Lifebound card from my hand, I'm going to get +5. You'll notice it doesn't say hero. This is a little bit of a departure from standard Ascension. I could play a Lifebound construct and still trigger this the turn I play that construct. So keep that in mind. Then we have Shadowcaster. Shadowcaster is a great example for a couple new things here. Ranged. A ranged champion can fire up to 3 spaces from where they are at an enemy champion. They do have to have line of sight. Line of sight is as simple as they could make it. I can see you. I'm within 3. I can shoot you. If there is an enemy champion in the way, I can still shoot the Arha Templar if the shortest number of hexes I can trace to him includes empty hexes only. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There's a route that goes through him, but let's say he's commanded some cultists. Cultists are also champions you can control and put on your team. If he has hidden his Arha Templar between 2 guys, my Shadowcaster either has to move first to get a better angle, or he has to shoot one of the closer champions, not the guy in the back. That said, if I have one of my own champions in the way, I can just effectively yell, "Duck!" and shoot right through my own guy. He'll get out of the way and let me hit the Arha Templar. If the Arha Templar is in the forest, I can totally shoot him. If I'm in the forest, I can totally shoot him. But if he's on one side of the forest and I have to shoot through that forest hex, that blocks line of sight. That arrow cannot land, or in this case, magical bolt of destruction. The other thing Shadowcaster has that's special about him is at the start of the game, you replace a militia in your deck with a heavy infantry. He gives you an automatic buff to your deck, which is really a cool concept of changing a little bit of that initial condition. That said, he costs 3 to command. He's only got 3 power and 5 defense. That's the same stats as the Spike Vixen that only costs 2 to command and has double attack. Ranged can be a very powerful effect, so it costs you a little more. Upgrading that militia to a heavy, not a huge difference in the grand scheme of things, but it's important enough to be a change to his cost. Flytrap Witch, the final thing for this particular player. If you have played a Lifebound card, it has ranged. Slay effect. If I can defeat an enemy champion with the Flytrap Witch, I immediately get to draw a card. Slay effects are going to be something you're really going to want to pay attention to in Ascension Tactics, as they can set up big plays and just keep your turns going. That said, how do you play a turn? I've told you you can move a champion 3 spaces. I've told you pay power to do it. But this is a deck building game. This is Ascension. So let's get all these champions back off of the board. And let's play a turn or two just to show you how it looks. First thing I need to do is check the command banner. The command banners are dealt out at the face down at the beginning of the game to determine turn order. I have banner number 2. That makes me second player. Every command banner is going to give a player 2 power every turn. You will always have enough to command at least a cultist, if not something else. But on your first turn as second player, you get an extra 2 power to you don't get first shot at getting to a shrine, but you do get slightly more units on the field quicker to catch up. It's a really well-balanced mechanism overall. So let me change my color over to blue. Gonna fight myself here a little bit. And blue has command banner number 1, just 2 power. He has Arha Sensei, which has another one of these upgrade an apprentice to a mystic things. I'm not going to go through all of his champions right now. They all have cool effects. There's all sorts of things you can do with this. I'm going to hit play all. I have 3, 4, 5 runes to spend. So I go to the center row, just like a standard Ascension game, and I choose to buy cards. There are heroes. When you acquire a hero, it goes to your discard pile. When you play a hero, you do the text in the box on the bottom. The cost to buy it's in the top right. In runes. Runes are these little triangle symbols. They're your buying power and enhance your deck. You also have constructs. A construct also has a buying cost in the top right, but it has stat effects on the card itself. This particular one, when you play it, you equip it to one of your champions. You can equip a champion that's on the board or still undeployed. It doesn't matter where they are. You can even equip it to one that's currently defeated. You just equip it. Now it has better stats. If your opponent ever defeats that champion, the construct will go to your discard pile. Another key thing that's very important about Ascension Tactics is the introduction of the ambush. I very much liked listening to Justin Dieri talk about why they did ambush the way it is. Ambush is kind of like a mercenary from Shards of Infinity, another Stoneblade product, where you can fast play a card but not add it to your deck. But if you had all these ambushes and they were like mercenaries, no one would ever do anything but play them right now because they're so important to take control early. Instead, you have a powerful ambush and you get the card for whatever it does later. The ambushes tend to be more powerful than the cards themselves, but there's some balance there. There's some that it's like, the ambush isn't great, it's just a thing. Iron Elemental. It's like a Mystic. It lets you command a cultist for free when you play it. It lets you command a cultist for free when you buy it. Pollen Pixie. Ambush. Put it straight in your hand. So you're going to get that 2 power this turn, and you're going to play a Lifebound card, potentially setting off things like your Runic Lycanthrope's Allegiance. Flourishing Druidess. Ambush, banish a card you've played this turn. This is really just the empower mechanism, but using the same keyword as all the other ambushes in the set for clarity. You'll notice Flourishing Druidess used to do that in Gift of the Elements as well. I like that. They're kind of tying their games together. And then we have things like Dragon's Eye. Slay, draw a card. +3 power, +3 defense. Can't go wrong with that. Constructs are pretty good in this game. But they're not super great. I'm just going to, for example, spend 4 of my 5 runes on this. I don't have anything that costs 1. I have 3 power for my first turn, so maybe I take my Arha Templar, deploy him and move 3 in my turn. Flip back over to yellow. Just like all deck builders, when you end your turn, you discard everything in play, anything left in your hand, then you draw 5 new cards. If you ever run out of deck, you shuffle the discard pile and keep drawing until you have the amount you need. So over here I have 4 runes, but I have 5 power, 1 militia, and 4 power on my first turn from the command banner. So maybe I go over here and I go, Iron Elemental. I will take that, it'll let me put out a cultist right away. And I'll have that cultist run for one of these side objectives. Then maybe I'll go, Pollen Pixie. I can have a ton of power this turn. I buy that and put it straight in my hand and play it. Now I have 7 power to work with. And then I look at my champions and I go, okay, well let's get some cheap guys moving towards the center. There's 2 of my 7. To show I've used the champion, you're supposed to exhaust it. Turn it sideways. That says I can't use that champion again this turn. Then I'll go, okay, another 2 on the Spike Vixen. Let's have it go to this side. So that's 4 of my 7. I can't command the Flytrap Witch, and I'd much rather use my Shadowcaster than put out a cultist. So let's send the Shadowcaster towards the center, moving him 3 spaces off of the portal. Now I have a whole bunch of units on the field. He's just got 1 Arha Templar. Huzzah! In turn, flip back to the other player's color. And he also plays all. And has 4 to spend. All kinds of good stuff. Look, more slay effects. I can make 1 Mondo champion by putting a whole bunch of constructs on the same guy. So let's take the Blast Coggles as well. I have 3 constructs in this deck now, but I have 3 power to work with. I'm going to use it on the Arha Templar again, and I'm going to run up and say this is my middle section. I'm supposed to tap him, so I'll do that. It doesn't particularly matter when you're about to end your turn, because all exhausted champions reset at the end of your turn. Alright, coming back over to this side. Because of the Shadowcaster, I've got an extra heavy infantry, so I have 4 power to work with in this deck. That's going to be important. And then, let's see if there's anything out here ambush-wise that could help me. Oh look, already a champion effect. That could be useful. Arha Templar has 5 defense. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use my 2 power from my command banner to command the Spike Vixen. Then I take the Spike Vixen, I move it up to 3 spaces, and that's all it does because it's not in range to attack anything. Then I spend my 4 runes on a Void Drift Stalker. It's a nice card giving me power, encouraging me to have lots of voids in my deck, but right now I get to ready a champion. So I will ready the Spike Vixen. It's already been commanded this turn, but now I can use it again. And I have a heavy infantry, so I can command my Spike Vixen, run up to the center, and smack the Arha Templar. I deal 3 damage. Not enough to kill his 5 defense, but I have double attack. So now with my second attack, I attack him again. Now I've done 6 damage to his 5 defense, and he has no treasure right now. If he'd had some of these treasure we looked at earlier, if he'd play Strike Back the first time Spike Vixen hit him, he would kill the Spike Vixen before the double attack could go off, and I wouldn't even kill the Arha at all. That would be a sad day. If he had an extra 3 defense in his hand, he could reveal that one time and save his champion as well. But now, his champion is defeated. It goes off the board, and its card also turns sideways again. This is the other way a champion becomes exhausted, by being defeated. Now I've spent all 4 of my runes and all 4 of my power, so I can end my turn and gain a victory point for controlling the center. The Arha had controlled it last time, now the Spike Vixen does. If I had been unable to kill the Arha because he had played a defense bonus, then all that would happen is no points for anyone at the end of my turn. My opponent does not score points on my turn. You only score points on your own turn at the end phase, and that's when you reset all your champions anyway. I'm going to change color back here and wrap up what I'm talking about. So there are some really cool things in this deck, like Ambush, deal 8 damage to an enemy champion and everything adjacent to it. If I had enough to acquire that, I could blow up the Shadowcaster and take the Runic Lycanthrope with it. All sorts of cool stuff going on out here in the center row. You're going to want to pay attention to the cards. They've been carefully changing and tweaking numbers to make sure everything's viable. You'll also want to look out for someone doing something like this. Arha Sensei. When I play the Blast Goggles, I draw a card. Oh yeah, the Yggdrasil Staff. So now I have an Arha Sensei that's got 4 attack and 10 defense. But now I've added 3 to both of those stats. If it kills something, I draw a card. I've added 1 and 2. And I've added 2 and 2. So that's what, 5, 6, 7, 6 and 7? Alrighty. So instead of 410, I now have a 10-17 Arha Sensei. I have a militia in my hand, so I can command him to run out here as a bit of a beast. On his next turn, he's almost certainly going to kill the Spike Vixen and draw a card and gain 2 runes. And this is going to be a bit of a monster for a bit. My opponent can totally gang up on him or pick up a treasure and use a big bonus like this +7 damage. That'll totally burn my Arha down a lot quicker than I'd expect for something with 17 defense. That's the general flow of this. Let me just buy some cards from the center until anything important flips. A couple examples I want to show to you. There's one more type of card in the center row besides constructs and heroes and ambushes. There are also champions that can come out of here. I promise they can come out of here. I promise, I promise, I promise. They're a thing. There's only like 4 of them, 1 for every faction. Oh look, I got a Pollen Pixie straight to my hand. Nice scripting on this mod. All kinds of cool stuff. Here's another really neat one. Shadow Elemental, ambush put in your hand. Command a cultist for free. If you want to, you can then destroy that cultist to deal 6 damage to every adjacent champion, including your own. So be careful not to blow up your own guys. But if that's the best thing you can do, just to nuke the field, then nuke the field. Gonna keep going here. There we go. Imri. Void champion. Ambush. If you buy Imri, you can deploy it immediately adjacent to an enemy champion. Imri, you can command twice per turn. The final text on this is probably going to say the first time you command Imri each turn, she does not exhaust. and then a 7 and a 3. So if I take this card, it's very important that it goes straight into play. The card goes into my army of all of my people that I can fight with. I get the miniature out of the box or bag, and then it's immediately available to use. This one has an ambush effect, so I get to deploy Emery wherever I'd like. Emery also has this command twice per turn thing, so the first time I use her, I don't have to turn her sideways. If I have the power to do so, I can activate Emery and kill this cultist, maybe move a little bit, and then I can pay 2 power again, activate Emery, kill a Shadowcaster, and maybe move a bit. All kinds of really cool swings come from these champions. Now I have an extra champion to work with in my army for the rest of the game. Powerful things, very, very big and exciting. Emery, of course, is very weak, easy to take down and off the field, but what a monster as an offensive force. Especially since you might not notice, oh look, you're so far away, whatever will Emery do? I will deploy, and then I will move. I will activate again since I can do it a second time. Oh look, I'm adjacent to you, go away. Really cool stuff going on in this game, lots of combos. Notably, my Arha Templar I could not use this turn since it died in my actual example game here, but at the end of my turn, it comes back. That should be everything you need to play Ascension Tactics on the base board here. I've talked about line of sight, forest, movement. I probably didn't do this and I should do it. If you move onto a treasure, you immediately pick it up. However, you have to end your movement there. If you wanted to move over a treasure, say I had given him a movement buff, I can either stop on the treasure and take it, or I can keep going to get to the shrine. I can't do both. If I pick it up and I get something with a movement boost, I can't then say, ah, give me more movement. I want to inch my way to the shrine this turn. Your movement phase is a single time per champion with an activation. Attack and move in any order, but you can't then boost it once you stop. And stopping is required to pick up a treasure. I do highly recommend going for the treasure. They make big swings and big changes to the game state, things you thought you could do. Nope, can't quite do it. I'm going to load real fast here onto this set again, and this time I'm going to click Edge of the Void. And what it's going to do is put me into draft mode, where there's a whole row of all kinds of champions, and we're going to take turns drafting. I'm going to not take turns and hope that the script doesn't break, but I'm going to draft 4 champions for myself. Then I'm going to flip color, draft 4 champions. What you're supposed to do is whoever goes last drafts first, then the other player, and you alternate back and forth. The first player will have the final draft, and once they've done their final draft, then you set up the game. This is a different scenario board. So there are still 3 shrines to control, but our portals are in different places, treasure in different places, forest in different places, and we have these Tainted Lands. The Tainted Lands are kind of the catch-all for, hey, this is a special effect, consult the rules. Most of the time, a Tainted Land is going to be essentially a lava tile. If you step into it, you take 5 damage. If you end your turn on it, you take 5 damage. Maybe I should say start turn. I'm going to have to double check how that's worded in the rule book, because I should not step onto, then stop, and take 10 damage. It's just 5 damage for being there in any way, shape, or form. You could kill your weak champions that way, so you have to be careful to move around it. Some of your stronger guys could take the debuff and stand in it, being easier to kill, but have some tactical positioning on the map. The Tainted Lands are also the way so that some scenarios can have totally different effects. This time, it's a snowdrift. You can move into it easily, but it takes 2 movement to get out, kind of like the opposite of a forest. You could have maybe a high ground where any champion standing on it gets an attack buff or a defense buff. Maybe even ranged champions get an extra range. Range is by default 3 hexes. Maybe if you have the high ground, you can shoot up to 4 away. All kinds of things they can do with it. I have no idea what they're going to pull out in the scenario book. We're going to have to just keep watching the Kickstarter campaign as they throw out information to us. I think that's everything you really need to know about playing Ascension Tactics. You can watch some of my other videos to just see us playing games. You might note when we play games a lot, if I have 2 activations, I'm just going to activate my Scout and use him, then I'm going to activate my Raven Siren and use it, and I'm not going to bother tapping it. If that's the only thing that was happening, my turn's going to end, they're going to reset. But formally, those do need to tap. It's important that you know which champions have been exhausted. It makes a whole bunch of these timing and critical effects important and crunchy. You get some real tactical decisions going on in this game. And that's all I've got. Thank you for watching. This has been Turtler7 teaching you a little bit about Ascension Tactics. Have a great day.